Well, hello, great leaders, and welcome to a special edition of Daily Truth with Dr. Ruth, Christ Centered Coach and Family Systems Specialist. I wanted to do these short talks with professionals like you all in both Christian ministry as well as business, just to talk about some life topics. These will go on for a little while. And this particular one is leading up to my master class on marriage revitalization. And you can see at the bottom of your screen where we will be doing this particular class. What you'll want to do is register at bit.ly/DEC Okay, and you'll again be able to observe that at the bottom of your screen as you pay attention. Again, this is Dr. Ruth with your Daily Truth, doing a special and during the midday, or if you get to see this at night, whenever you watch it, it's airing now live midday. And so we're going to have some special guests, and today we're going to be talking about what a man wants. We're living in a world and a crazy society, where the definition of a man is being redefined every day, so they think. But what was God's original intention when he created the first man in the garden, Adam? What did God have in mind? He said in Genesis that he created man in his image and likeness. And then he said he created them. So that was Adam and Eve. If you go back and read, if you watch Daily Truth at any point, I always tell you to read the scripture for yourself, because I'm just bringing you the word of God. It's for you to go and study for yourself according to 2 Timothy 2:15. And so before I go any further, I want to introduce one of my guests today that I am so happy to be here with, Mr. Willie Tubbs. Hello, Mr. Tubbs. How are you?
I am doing just fine. How are you doing, Dr. Ruth?
I'm wonderful. If you can go ahead on and tell the people a little bit about yourself and what you do.
I am a inspirational speaker, an author, book writing coach. And as a result of teaching people my reset philosophy, you learn how to rescue yourself, lead your children into their greatness, and pursue a career that enables you to live with purpose and passion. I'm like the genie in the bottle, make three wishes and I will deliver. Who do you know that's willing to get outside themselves to become unstoppable, to achieve every goal they set for themselves? And mainly what I do to get to the real nitty gritty is really show people how to tell their stories. And it's been so exciting for me and the journey that I've been on.
Wow. Wow. I mean, you are multifaceted. There's many layers and dimensions to you and what you do. And I'm so excited to hear about it. And thanks for joining me on this episode, this special episode of Daily Truth with Dr. Ruth, where we're talking about what a man wants. And I love it. So is there a missus? Are there children that are attached to you?
Yes, I've been married to my lovely wife, LaDonna Tubbs, for the last 20 years. We just celebrated our 20
Mm,
years anniversary. And
wow.
we have two lovely queens. Princesses that's coming out to be queens. One just graduated, and one is about to graduate this year. I'm just so excited about my whole family of what we are doing right now.
Awesome. What an amazing and wonderful testimony to be married 20 years in this day and time. And you're not a very old guy. So that tells me that you are breaking societal norms and statistics. I won't go any further into that because I want to go ahead on and bring on our next guest. I'm so glad to have him here. A great man, Dr. Guy Henry. Go ahead and tell the people a little bit about yourself.
Well, keeping it short, I guess, is going to be the name of the game today, right? So, I've been a missionary to Honduras for 27 years. I also am a public speaker or motivational speaker, more challenging speaker, I guess. I have authored 2 books. I have recently become a human behavior analyst and a leadership empowerment coach, mostly personal and professional leadership empowerment through that self-awareness, kind of a discovery of self-awareness. My passion is to empower innovators and evolving leaders, not leaders that get stuck. For me, is not exciting. I want evolving leaders who maybe feel trapped in transition, but really would looking to define the next layer of their why and help them to design their transformation.
Wow. Wow. Just like I told Mr. Tubbs, you are multifaceted. There are so many dimensions to you and what you do. And also, so is there a Mrs. and are children attached to Dr. Henry?
There is a Mrs. From Honduras 6 years ago, but I do also
Uh-huh.
have 2 adopted children from Honduras from a previous marriage that I raised from since they were young teens. My son is 22. My daughter's 19. So, yes.
Awesome. Well, we have something in common. I have a 19-year-old that's my youngest. He will be 20 in a few months. And my 21-year-old will be 22 in July. And so I'm so excited to have you all on today. Again, this is Daily Truth with Dr. Ruth, and we are doing a wonderful midday special, talking about what a man wants is our topic. And so we're going to get into some very amazing questions and allow these great men to answer, because I'm not a man, obviously. And so they can tell you a lot better. Ladies, listen up. Men, listen up, because maybe you can emote with these gentlemen and say, hey, that's what I've been trying to say all along. Or, wow, I didn't know that. And so you can comment in the chat as we go along, and I will make sure we make available how you can get a hold of these men at a later date if you want to reach out to them and utilize their services, because, again, you see their coaches in their own perspective, in their own right. And this is in preparation for our marriage revitalization masterclass. And you can look on the screen for the date and time. And it's a free class. It's free. I'm going to tell you how to pour the fire and desire back into your marriage. And if you've never been married, you can also find out how to choose a spouse and how to keep a ring on it once you get them. Okay. So
Okay.
a lot of times people get married and they don't know why they're getting married. They are just jumping into something and they don't know how to choose a spouse. And then they end up divorced, citing irreconcilable differences, but when it's actually immaturity. I refuse to die to myself and figure you out, and you refuse to die to yourself and figure me out. And so let's just call it quits. And as you can see, these men have put their all into it. We have a 20-year marriage and we're working on a 6-year marriage. And so they have something they can offer you. But first, we want to talk about men. And we're going to do one of these for women too, because men need to know what a woman wants. But we're going to talk about how society is affecting our males right now. So, Mr. Tubbs, what does it mean to you to be a man?
What it means to me to be a man. Well, first and foremost, it starts with knowing my identity.
Hmm.
Knowing my identity, because in order for me to display to my wife and to my daughters about being a father, I must know who I am. And just them understanding who I am and me understanding who I am and how I have the vision that God has given me to go forward. It's literally just expressing to everyone that I have a purpose, and the thing that I'm going towards, it may be something that everyone should be looking towards too as well, because everybody has a good idea of what they're supposed to do, but they really don't know who they are. So it just understanding who I am deals with how I'm supposed to be a man. It
Hmm.
starts with identity. It starts with
Wow.
identity.
Wow. And so, Dr. Henry, when you hear Mr. Tubbs talk about purpose and identity and being a man, having conversations with you previously, I know this is something that is really in your lane. So, thinking about what it means to be a man and jumping on the horse of purpose and identity, can you speak to that for me?
Um, yeah, actually, you kind of touched on several things just in that short little statement, Mr. Tubbs. But kind of going in that line, our identity is quite often masked because we're not very efficient at being self-aware as humans, but especially men. We have um, too many opinions coming from too many places. And I also think that we're not recognizing that technically we have two personalities. We have our nature and we have our nurture. And quite often, as you mentioned earlier, we get married, we don't even know why. And it's because pretty much we're operating, getting to know one another in our nurtured personality, not our actual natural. So we wake up 6 months later and we say, who is this person? It's because now we have to be me, and me is not the person I presented myself with. So I think something that's very important um, in being a man and really having a masculinity kind of personality is to be really self-aware and confident in who you are. Discover, that those continuous awakenings of your why. I think too often we get stuck in, well, I got to get a job, I got to pay my bills, but how about focusing on what your why is and pursue that? And I won't open up any more doors.
Wow. Wow. That is so true. When you discover your purpose, you can really see how that purpose aligns with God creating you to be a man.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a lot of the reason why we see some of the horrible situations we see in today's society. I was doing some research, and for those of you that watched this episode of My Daily Truth with Dr. Ruth, I presented some statistics about in 2021, adult crimes had decreased. However, delinquencies and crimes with juveniles had increased more than 80% in the United States alone.
Hmm.
And I would submit and surmise it's because these children, these young people, these juveniles have not been instilled purpose. And as you both, gentlemen, you both pointed out, if the man does not know his identity, how does he know how to instill that in someone else or his child, or how to marry and be that authentic person instead of, hey, look at me, I'm flashing money, I'm this good looking guy, oh, this lady wants me, and then 6 months later, what did I marry? So when you think about that, how does purpose, identity, self-awareness, and too many opinions affect your legacy, Dr. Henry?
Well, again, you've kind of opened up a lot of stuff, so we'll keep it simple as much as we can. But if we just look at the simplicity of what legacy is, it's just passing something on. And what are we preparing ourselves to pass on to the next generation? If we are lacking understanding of who we are, what our identity is, and how we relate with other people, and how we relate to other people in different situations, that part of that self-awareness is allowing us to realize that maybe John is different than Jim, and Sally is different than Susie, and how can we relate? So all of that begins to develop an effect on who we are, and that begins to be part of what we're leaving on, which is part of that legacy.
Wow, wow, wow. And I truly agree with you on that. Mr. Tubbs, I heard you say something about going back to the identity part. So as a dad, and considering also what Mr. Dr. Henry was saying about too many opinions, as a dad, whose voice do you think should be the loudest in your child's ear, and why, when it comes down to passing on your legacy?
Well, as a dad, I say to myself, well, I think the father should be the loudest voice. The reason why, like I said, it goes back to identity and purpose. But then when they understand the father, the purpose of the father being there, especially on daughters, oh, that's another rabbit hole right there.
Yeah.
Um, it really gives them purpose too as well, because I noticed for a lot of children that doesn't have their fathers in their life, they tend to go different ways, even though if they was there, just being the presence, it does a lot for a child. And for
Mhm.
me, I didn't have my father in my life, right? But I had to learn different ways in order for me to break the chain. So
Mm.
personal development comes in place. And not just that, to leave the legacy. Oh, I'm getting excited. It's really understanding that everything I do in life is personal, but not private.
Mm.
It's personal to me because it's my life, but my private area is all about just helping this generation and the next generation to come to become the best version of themselves.
Mhm.
Mm. Wow. Your life is personal, but not private. And we can really see that in the statistics, because maybe they did those crimes, those juveniles did those crimes, they personally did it, but the privacy went away because they got caught, eventually, and it was made public of what they did in private. And so I love the scripture that says a good name is rather to be treasured above riches. And when I think about that, I think about passing on legacy, passing on a good name. And I really want to go back to that question again about legacy. Um, and I want to merge it with something. Being an entrepreneur, as you both are entrepreneurs in your own right, how does passing on a good name and legacy affect what you do today as a man and an entrepreneur? Whoever wants to go first.
I'll go first so that I don't have to follow. But I'm going to try to connect it to something that he was saying in terms of being present. That's so important because I think we have to match up to some kind of a bar out there for being a man or being a father, being a husband, when just being present sets the stage. We can be busy, we can be occupied, we can be doing our businesses and our ministries, but just literally being, present, not physically, but emotionally connecting is so important. And I think that can connect to our legacy because we're establishing something that we can pass on. How to be present, even if we are busy, even if we do have a lot of things going on, to train ourselves to be that moment aware that, okay, my daughter's over here, my son's there, my wife needs me. I can give them that full attention, even though it may be for a short time. The seed that's so precious of our attention is being handed down. And I think if we do that, our next generation will see that, not only in our own children, but I think as men, we're responsible for those to whom we have an influence around our life. And if we can learn to do that, we're actually creating a legacy of being present.
Hmm. Wow.
Ooh.
Wow. 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 All right. Wow, you said you didn't want to follow him. He's like,
Well, I got to launch off of what he was saying then, see.
But what would you say to the entrepreneur and leaving a legacy? And being present. I love that, Dr. Henry. What would you say to that, Mr. Tubbs?
I would say exactly the same thing, but I'm gonna put a little twist on it so I can give you some of my personal testimony. My oldest daughter, she just graduated from high school, and she came to me. She said, "Dad, I know college is coming around, but I don't want to go to college right now. I want to work with you in the business." I said, "What?" I said, "Okay, okay, we can do that." So therefore, by her just saying that, and she saw me do several different things, like speak at her school. And not just that, she seen me being on the news. She seen me doing all these things, and she's looking of the way of, okay, how can I spend more time with dad? How can I give more time to the thing that I want to do? So now entrepreneurship, which I'm very excited that my daughter is getting very excited about, it's literally giving them by them looking at me, it's giving them the understanding that they can use their giftings in order for them to make room for themselves. I like what Les Brown said. He said we wasn't meant to work for a living, but to live our making, and living our making would make our
Mhm.
living. And they seeing all these things through their dad. And I'm
Mhm.
so excited for the bright future of my children uh, because of what I decided to do to break the chains. And my mother, she did a lot for me to understand the possibilities out there. I'm gonna have to settle down a little bit. I'm getting excited, Dr. Ruth Charles.
Well, if I can interrupt before
Go
Dr.
ahead.
Ruth goes again, just to, because we're focusing on the entrepreneurship, I think for so long the Industrial Revolution had us in this box of you got to go to do your 9 to 5, you got to get your paycheck, and hopefully you get by. With all the mess that's going on in society today, there is some positives, and I believe that as we're moving into our own private businesses and becoming entrepreneurs, and even mini entrepreneurs, that is opening up a door for a mentality for our next generation to realize they can make their own way and let their money work for them rather than working for the money.
Wow. That is amazing. And when I hear you all speak about this, it really, let's go back to the introduction. When you introduced yourself, Dr. Henry, you said you were a missionary, which meant at some point you were not around your family. And you did not say this, Mr. Tubbs, but just something I know about your background, that you were a soldier at one point, and
Yes.
so you weren't around your family. Dr. Henry, you mentioned about the quality of time, and what that time looks like when you spend with your family. And so I've heard a lot of women, whether they're married or single with children, complain about the dads not spending time or quality time with their children. They can be in the home, but they're in the corner watching whatever sports event. Or they can be in the home, they have their computer, and it's like, leave me alone. I'm working. I do not have time for you. And when I'm done, I'm headed to bed or whatever I'm going to do. And I don't have time. And so, thinking about quality time over quantity time, had you not stopped to spend time with those children that are not now adults, Dr. Henry, and those children, uh, I almost said Dr. Willie, I know, coming soon.
Coming soon.
Mr. Tubbs, thinking about those children that are now following in your footsteps and wanting to be entrepreneurs, how did the quality of time you spend with them, how do you believe that affected their decision and shaped them into who they are today? I know we're a little bit off of the questions I gave you, but you guys drove this, so let's go with it.
Awesome. Great question. So the quality of time. Well, once again, going back to when I didn't have my father in my life, I promised myself that I was going to be a WCF, which is a world class father. And coming into this realm and just experiencing everything that they do in life in school, I was there. It was important that I was there. Even though I was on my paid internship, I was there. I was going to be there so they can understand the support that they need, right? Then as they grow older, The quality of time is more important than anything. The reason why I say that, my mother gave me, she said, if you have any questions about life, come to me. But I
Hmm.
twisted it. I said, you know what? You're going to have these questions at this time. I'm going to come to you instead of you coming to me. And by them understanding that I am there, regardless of anything. Like I'm gonna give this quick tip for all the listeners out there for being a father. I will literally tell you to do this one little thing. It's so powerful. Give your daughter or your son a blank letter, put it in an envelope, and say, whenever you have anything that you want to tell me, but you're afraid on how I'm going to react, bring this envelope to me and I will understand how serious the matter is. That would change everything about the closeness of the relationship between you and your son or daughter. It changes everything.
That's good. And you have to actually care to want to hear what your child is attempting to convey to you. And I'm sure, Dr. Henry, having grown children, you know how after a certain age, your children don't necessarily want to tell you certain things. And so, that being the case, how do you think the quality time spent before they get to that stage in life affected your children being close with you later?
Well, I think I will start by confessing I probably didn't always do it as well as I would like. You know, as you said, being a missionary, full time ministry, there was a lot of things. You know, you wear a lot of hats. Where sometimes one of those hats was being a father, right? And so there was a lot of this taking off and taking on, and of course, being in a ministry type setting, um, they're aware of how that can pull you away. So that quality time, that being transparent, let there be some communication. I found that was actually better than trying to keep them protected. Because
Mm.
if we try too much to keep them protected, we are only deceiving ourselves. They're smarter than we give them credit for.
Oh, yeah.
They
Yeah.
know, they sense, and so just recognizing that, go ahead, it's kind of like how much do you tell your child when they ask you about sex education or whatever. You give them what they're ready for. And so when I say transparency, when they were younger, I couldn't share a lot, but I had to share with something so that when they got older, I was able to share more. And I think that's part of just being aware, being transparent is very important, but yet being aware of what is it that they're actually needing right now. When they ask a question, give them the answer that they require without going past, but then not diminishing their capabilities by coming up short. I don't know if that's kind of helping, but that's kind of what I'm thinking about, because I realize if I could go back, I'd like to readjust some of my my priorities. But I'm grateful that both of them are in my life. We have a good relationship. My
Mm.
son doesn't even live near me anymore, so there's that phase. But yet we connect. We get on phone calls or messages, and we get together a couple times a year just to maintain that connection.
Wow. Wow.
And that's so
Wow.
important, because part of that legacy is having that relationship after they are
Mm-hmm.
grown, having that
Mm-hmm.
relationship that says, hey, you know what, Dad, I got a problem. I need some help. And there's nothing more rewarding in everything that we've done, however much money we've made, however many clients we've had, however much time in ministry. There's just nothing more rewarding that when your adult child says, hey, you know what, I could use some help.
Yeah. Yeah. I would agree. I would
Yeah.
agree. Again, you're watching a special edition of Daily Truth with Dr. Ruth, Christ Center coach and family system specialist. And we're talking today about what a man wants. And I'm sure you have been inspired thus far. So, without further ado, we're going to continue the conversation. And I just want to point out something. I was looking at an article, and I was in shock. And this really furthered the reason why I knew I had to do this segment leading up to my free marriage revitalization masterclass. And you can look at the bottom of the screen to find out how to register for your free seat and join. But I saw this article listed, and it said the Y chromosome is slowly vanishing. A new sex gene could be the future of men. Whoa. Huh. Now, as a Christ-centered coach, obviously Christ is in it. And so the Bible says that God created male and female. There's no middle gender. There's no third, fourth, however many others they try to come up with. There's only two, male and female. And so Dr. Henry, in our last question, talked about telling your kids about sex. And I'm here to tell you, parents, that if you don't teach them about sex and teach them in a healthy manner, trust me, the world and society has an answer. And it's probably not what you want your child to learn. And so, considering the article title that I just read out, and about the topic of teaching your children about sex, Dr. Henry and then Mr. Tubbs, can you please tell me, what do men actually want when it comes down to being a father? And I get it. Dr. Henry, you said something wonderful. Or should I say, how do you get to that world-class relationship and I call it world-class because many men don't have good relationships with their adult children. It's the truth. I won't bring in the statistics right now, but obviously with the juvenile delinquency and just to let you know, that went up to age 24. So those are definitely not just teens, they're adults too. Up to age 24, there has been a serious increase in crime in juvenile delinquencies. And so when you consider some of the crimes, and a lot of these were not just thefts, but they were murders or sexually perverse crimes where rapes, molestations, things of that nature were taking place by and committed by juveniles. When you think about being a father and having that personal relationship with your child, where you can go to them, and better yet, they can come to you and say, hey, I need to discuss something. How beneficial has that been? And how did you get to that point? How do you believe you got to that point? And how can other men get to that point where their grown children will want to come back and talk to them about deep personal things?
It's amazing how you say all these things to lead up to one question, but there's really 25 of them within that.
Hey.
Well, first of all, when you say, what does a man want? I think the problem is we've been facing too much or addressing too much of what we want rather than what we need.
Oh.
We need to be responsible. That's what a man needs to be. A man needs to be responsible. He needs to stay in control of his emotions, not reactive. We go back to Jesus as the biblical example. He was resilient, but yet he was gentle in spirit. He was humble in his service to others, but he was very authoritative. And so there is that balance. And I think what's happened, the reason for some of these statistics is we lost the father, in the home. Where is that guidance to be able to be humble and yet, authoritative? And I'll throw one more other thing in there, with this whole, gene thing. I think all we really have to do is go back to nature. There's the male lion, there's the female lion. Anything else that we do with science to, try to mix that all up and end up with the he, she, this, that, the other, and all we and they and me and the cat and everything else is just, I think I touched a lot of things right there for those that are aware. where does that come from? It just comes from the lack of being comfortable in who we actually are.
Mm-hmm.
I am a male, but I can be gentle. I am a female, but I can be authoritative. And we all have our place to do those things. Where is that instruction in the home? We need to come back to that. And I don't mean get all old fashioned. I just mean, let's just get all right and be right.
Straight up. That is so true. Mr. Tubbs, before I talk any further, you speak into what the question and also what your colleague just spoke out. My word, that was good.
Oh man, that's so good. So good. And to piggyback, I have to piggyback. That is so good. For the male and the female, it just like let me say it like this. By us getting those kind of stats, it was a stat that I heard. The number one reason why things are happening the way it is in our lifetime is because of absence, fathers being absent. And therefore, when those individuals take their place and understanding the foundation of everything, just like I love the word Holy Bible. My acronym for Holy Bible is He only left you basic instructions before leaving Earth. And just understanding, just ground yourself underneath the word of God and understanding this is how it's supposed to be. And I love what he said about nature. That is so good. The nature of the thing, it will always give you a glimpse, of what's supposed to happen. Even though you don't, let's say you don't have no Bible to reference from. Just look at nature. That is a really good point. So just for understanding the foundation and just going towards and learning from the foundation, which is the Bible, and knowing what to do, being in your purpose, being in your place, then other people that seeing this, they will have an understanding of how I could be in that place of happiness. It's a lot of people look at me and my wife and my children and they say, man, I remember my daughter's friend said, I wish I had a dad like that because I was always there, being there. I remember I was teaching the whole track team how to run out of blocks because they was running, doing hurdles. And it just seems to be what children are looking for, presence and knowing what to do next. And just being in your right spot at the particular time and showing them the foundation of why you are there.
Wow. So not perfection, but presence.
Just presence.
Yeah.
Because I see so many men, and I have a brother, I have a lot of male friends, colleagues, and things of that nature. And I see so many men saying that they don't want to go around their child or their children if they're not married to the mother, or if they're married, I work 80 plus hours per week because I need to get more things. I need to give my child the latest video game. I need to take them on this trip. I need to buy them the best car when they make 3 A's or when they graduate college. I need to have the money to buy them a new house, all of these different things that you hear as to the reason why they are not spending not just quality time, they don't spend the quantity. So it's not being perfect, you said, it's being present. And I love something that was said maybe a few questions back, Dr. Henry, when you talked about being transparent. And that goes to not being perfect, but being present. And I think about, again, when I was a child growing up, knowing who my father was, seeing news clippings of him, knowing that it wasn't an oops in the night, there was a relationship there. And then at the end, he decided, well, you know what? I don't want to be a dad, so let me take off. and how I felt that there was a missing piece because I did not have that positive male role model, even if he could not be there all the time, at least some type of connection. And so, before we go on any further and begin to wrap up, when and I love Dr. Henry said it's not necessarily what the man wants, it's what he needs. And I
Yeah.
totally agree with that. I totally, but people watching, you have to ear catchers, you need to be present. You need to be responsible. You need to be accountable. You made a baby or you
Yeah.
adopted some kids. Well, however you got these children, you said yes to fatherhood. So be a dad.
Yes.
And so thinking about that, how do you think being transparent and being present affects the relationship with your spouse? And let me rephrase it. Being transparent and being present with your children, how does that affect the relationship with your spouse?
Mm.
Whoever wants to answer first.
I could jump in real quick. I could jump in. One of the things that my wife always tell me, she said, Willie, how you are so present with our children, it just makes me smile. I said, why does it make you smile? She said, it makes me smile because that's what I wanted whenever I was growing up. Her father was there, but he wasn't present at the beginning, but he became present later on. But in those mean times that you really need your father, and just me being present, I wrote this in my first book, Parents, It's Time to Reset. You must show your children your kryptonite.
Hmm.
Show your children your kryptonite. Why? Because whenever you fall, and when they see that kryptonite come around, and whenever you fall, you get back up, teaching them how they can overcome circumstances and situations. And whatever the storm is, you still can do it. You still can get over it. And as I continue to show my daughters and show my wife what a man is supposed to do for a woman, as in, being married or being a father, it gives them hope. It gives them hope that there is something out there. I mean, it gives my daughters hope there is something out there that they can reach. So they just, there's no good men out there. No, have you been looking in the right spots? So
Hmm.
therefore, by me being an example, it gives them hope. And my acronym for hope is help other people excel.
Mm. Wow. We all need some hope. Dr. Henry.
Well, I got a couple things that I'd like to say in reference to that because, when we are present, let me say it this way. We know that the man is supposed to provide for the family, but somewhere along the line, we've got that to be the breadwinner, and that's what that means. But providing for the family means, leading in the family's destiny. Providing is I grew up in the era where for football, not soccer. But my son grew up in the era of soccer, was a soccer player. So I needed to give attention to that. I had to at least try to figure out who was who, so that I can relate, giving them that transparency to say, I'm willing, kind of showing that kryptonite. Yeah, I know nothing about it, but if I showed interest, that connected. So I said all that to say this, and I know that, I'm only assuming adults are watching this, is that in reference to how that relates to your wife, let me tell you, when you are transparent with your children, you are going to get a better connection with her, if I can say it that way. She will get excited, if you know what I mean.
And I would agree with you because you think about women are nurturers. And so when a woman sees her husband paying attention and being present with the children, and I mean present, not just there physically, but really awaken to these children. I'm learning about them. I'm taking interest in what they're doing, even if I don't understand it, even if I hate it. I want to know my child. It sends a ethereal signal to a woman like, whoa, hey, oh
Thank you
my
for getting the right
gosh.
dialogue there.
Woo-wee. It stirs the pot.
Yeah.
So, men, what you need to do, if your boo is not paying attention to you, pay attention to your kids, and you will start a flame that you can't put out.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, just do the dishes once and watch what happens.
You see, when you learn the love language, and yes, there's women want, some women want gifts, some women want quality time, some women want you to help around the house, some women want you to say all these sweet words to them, and that may be their secondary, but their primary, take care of those children, be dad to those kids. And
Yeah.
even if you're not married and you want to marry this woman, and maybe you two have children, or she has a child, you have a child, however that dynamic works, you take interest, good, solid interest in that child and their well-being. I'm sure she's going to let you put a ring on it. Okay? Because you spoke in her language as a mom and as a wife. She feels safety there. She's like, well, I can trust that my child is going to be okay. And if this man is willing to be all in with our children, I know he's all in with me, because mom and kids are packaged. Even if you have them after you're married, because I understand there's a mixed multitude, so to speak. You have different family dynamics going on watching this. And so I can guarantee, men, if you get that one thing right, no, don't be mean to her and be nice to the kids. But if you get that thing right, I can guarantee you'll stir up something that, Okay, guys, as we wrap it up, there are a few things that I took from this, and I want to speak to this. First thing I took from this was be there, or be present, be a support, be proactive, be a parent, be transparent and honest. Get control, or be in control of you, not your emotions. And we see that a lot. And I love something, you don't have to be perfect. And when I think about leaving a legacy, and I think about dads and what they have to pass on, Mr. Tubbs, Dr. Henry, when you pass on, what do you want to be said of you as far as legacy, not from others, but from your children and your wife?
Well, as for me, like I said, the promise I made to myself whenever um, my father wasn't in my life, I said, you know what? Whenever I become a parent, I will be a WCF, a world class father, or now I'm a world class husband too. Um, but one of the things that I love to do for legacy is to give them my thoughts. Give them my thoughts. What do I mean about that? What about those times that you couldn't really articulate, but you can articulate it on a paper? So really just understanding the power of your own story, understanding the things that you went through, exactly those times. Sometimes your children don't know. Sometimes your wife doesn't know what you went through. And so if they could just get a understanding of who you are by putting it on a piece of paper. The Bible says in Habakkuk, write the vision, make it plain. And also, the Bible says a good man will leave an inheritance to his children's children. See, I realize it's not the inheritance is not just something physical. No, it's also something mental. And you give them your thoughts. Of course, write a book so they can understand why you are the way you are. And some of the times that you try to explain, but you couldn't explain why you act the way you do. But if they understand your story, they will understand how they can give you some glory.
All right. Tell your story to your children. Leave it for them. That's good. That's good. Dr. Henry, to you.
Well, this is the time that's not good to follow because that was pretty good. I think what I would like to leave with them is the fact that I would like them to be able to say that he was real. You know, not that wasn't just the pulpit person, you know, the in front person, the coaching person or whatever, but that he was real, and that being, you know, being me was good so that they can be them. To be able to feel that that's okay just to be them. That's what I would like to leave them so that they can do the same. When I think of like our brother said, if we can leave a legacy that leaves the legacy, you know, thinking about not just the next generation, but the following one through our children and through our grandchildren, so that there is an ongoing heritage. I would like that to be said, that I was giving them the opportunity to realize that they get to be them and that they can pass that on.
That's good. That's good. In a world of fakes, in a world of copies, in a world of you can't tell one person from the other because there's no identity. Being your authentic self and being able to pass on authenticity to your lineage and legacy is so important. And I'm so glad that you all said that. And I'm so glad that you were able to join me on today. Again, this has been a special with Dr. Ruth and your daily truth. We've done this special on what a man wants. And I love Dr. Henry said, nope, it's what a man needs. And that's the truth. A man needs so many things, and you'll want to go back and watch these different episodes and parts as we covered so much on today. And I really have enjoyed having these gentlemen on. And if you would just tell me, Mr. Tubbs and then Dr. Henry, how can someone get a hold of you should they want to utilize your services?
Yes, you could go to www.willietubbs.com and you will understand everything that I do. I'm a book writing coach. Not just that, I'm also an inspirational speaker. So you can find everything about me on www.willietubbs.com.
Thank you. Dr. Henry?
Well, for me, I am in transition in terms of our website and so forth, but I'm definitely easy to find on Facebook as Guy Henry. And definitely I could leave you my email because I love working with emails where, you know, which is simply guy_Henry@mac.com if you are interested in anything else. And I could give you my website, but it's blank since I'm readapting and changing everything. So there's no reason to give that just yet. So.
Authenticity. I love it. And you can always reach out to me if you want to contact these gentlemen. And they are amazing gentlemen, amazing coaching practices. And of course, Dr. Ruth Charles, you can also reach out to drcharles.podia.com. And so thank you so much for joining me today on this episode of Daily Truth with Dr. Ruth. And as always, thank you again for joining me for another episode of your Daily Truth with Dr. Ruth. If you like what you've heard, please Make sure you like and subscribe to our YouTube channel and leave a comment on other social media platforms. Share with a friend, a neighbor, or coworker that can really utilize the information that has been taught here today. For more information or a free consultation, or if you just need counseling or coaching or someone to talk to, reach out to me at Dr. Ruth at drruthcharles.com. That's DRRUTH at DRRUTHCHARLES.com. If you want a community of like-minded people that you can join in with that would understand you and you can offer solutions to them, feel free to join our Leader Live Leadership Facebook group. Again, that's Leader Live Leadership Facebook group. I'm looking forward to being with you on another episode. Until then, have a blessed and wonderful rest of your day. Bye-bye.